Zoo Boys, Chapter 12, Part A, Bad Dads and Arachnid. It was getting dark fast. All of them agreed earlier that it would be wise to go back to the aviary, eat, and sleep in the cage that they found last night, or actually it was early this morning. Tonight would be the second official night they slept over in the zoo. As they walked, they made sure they stayed on the designated paved trails. They really weren't sure how to get back to the bird habitation, but they were confident they would. As big as the dome over the area was, they still saw no sign of it from where they were. John brought up how they had to get back home before dark tomorrow, probably before Sunday afternoon lunch. "That's really the only time my family eats together," he added. Jeremy asked, "Will your sister," his voice cracked as he said her name, "Karen, be there?" After the words came out, he wished he would have thought better than to ask. John thought nothing of the question and simply said, "Sure, my whole family." Ronnie jumped in. "Jeremy is in love with your Jeremy slugged Ronnie's arm, then swung one of his bags of dry goods at him. Ronnie's arm hurt, but the slug was worth it. While dodging the back, he smiled and said, "Hey, don't crush the Pop-Tarts." Jerry commanded, "Just shut up. I'll crush you, you Pop-Tart." Dave held up one hand and dropped his body into a crouching position. They all mimicked his actions. He held his index finger over his mouth to signal silence. They all listened. They heard nothing but the jungle sounds of insects, birds, and various animals they couldn't see, but they sure heard. Dave rose up slowly. John asked him softly, "Did you hear something?" Dave said, "Thought I did." Ronnie began to feel nervous. Jeremy asked, "An animal?" Dave cracked back, "Nah, I think it was your mom." Ronnie added, "It was your mom farting in the woods, Jeremy." "Shh!" Jeremy hushed him and slugged his other arm. This time it was harder, but Ron resisted, crying about it. They began to walk again. John went back to the original subject. "So we better be home by then, tomorrow, by lunch, I mean, or at least dinner time, or the cops are probably gonna come looking for us. Our alibi only holds up if we are back home by dinner." Dave spoke up, "Oh, who cares? Why are you so worried about all that? We're good. Ain't nothing to worry about. Stop overthinking, Johnny boy." None of them had any idea how they were going to get off the island. They had not really thought that far ahead. At their age, they were used to most things being done for them. When they went any further than a long bike ride, they rode with whomever drove. They had to depend on adults taking them wherever they needed to be, whenever they needed to be there. As the sun began to set, the nocturnal insects were just beginning to rise or raise their singing. The sound of most birds came to a halt, and creatures who had slept all day were slowly waking to start their night shift. As the boys walked, they shared stories and jokes and anything that helped take their mind off of any danger that might be lurking around them. Dave once again brought up the old story about Ronnie sounding out the word Union Bank incorrectly. Because of his earlier head injury, he didn't realize he had already talked about it. He did his over-exaggerated impression of how funny it was when his youngest friend asked the others in the car, Why would anyone need to put onions in a bank? Ha ha! Ronnie, First Onion Bank. Ronnie defended himself. It was Western Onion Bank, but first, no, not First Union. Besides, you weren't even there. You don't even know. You're the... Ronnie was able to stop himself before he got another slug in his arm, this time from Dave. He just fumed silently. Jeremy brought up some bad dad jokes. That was always a good subject that would make them grunt in anguish while at the same time snicker with amusement. Jeremy pitched the first one that stood out in his mind. Hey guys, did you hear about the monster with 5 legs? His pants fit him like a glove. They all reacted with deep groans. Jeremy hoped that joke didn't make the others think about the 8-legged octopus. Ronnie jumped in. Oh, I got one. What did the monster say when he saw a passenger train full of people? Ronnie waited a little too long in an attempt to build up anticipation. Jeremy belted out the answer, choo-choo. Ronnie was so mad he exploded. Come on, Jer, you jerk. You ruined my joke. His anger shot down his arm right into his fist like lightning striking Jeremy's arm. Jeremy laughed. Ow, man. Oh, it didn't hurt. Oh, how, man. Ron was still triggered as he clarified. Yeah, well, you got it wrong anyway. The monster says, oh, good, it's a choo-choo train. You idiot, jerk, Jeremy. John offered the next one. What did the invisible man say to the other invisible man? Their thoughts temporarily went back to the see-through octopus and its 8 arms. John realized that after he started the joke, and he quickly finished the joke. Long time no see! The punchline was delivered weakly, but it did help them get their minds back off that octopus. Dave was next. What is the worst kind of cat to have? Quasi's head popped up at the mention of the word cat. Dave almost forgot the answer, but then finished with a catastrophe. Get it? Catastrophe? Catastrophe. Yeah, a catastrophe. John asked, what's a cat's favorite TV show? Quasi responded once again. This time he galloped up from the back of the line and up next to John while John finished the answer. The evening, the others joined in unison. Muse! That helped Jeremy think of another bad dad joke about TV. I saw a TV show about beavers. It was the best damn show I ever saw. They all chuckled. Not so much because it was actually funny, but because it contained a word adults seemed to designate or earmark as dirty, wrong, and otherwise off limits for kids to use. While growing up, one thing, more than anything else that confused the adolescent boys, was why people their parents' age tried not to use certain words around young kids or really old people, but freely used those words around each other a lot. They really weren't sure what would happen to them if they used those words even when adults weren't around. They were still trying to figure that out. Next, Ronnie was excited to share what just popped into his head. What's an owl's favorite TV show? This time, he was sure to not delay the answer, just in case one of the others knew the answer. Doctor Who! They had all heard of Doctor Who, even though they had never watched it. John complimented Ronnie with some much-needed encouragement. That's a good one, Ron. Ronnie liked it when they called him Ron instead of Ronnie. Somehow it just made him feel more mature. It was now time for another bad dad joke. Dave briefly thought about how all the ones he had heard were not from his own dad or from other dads, but mostly simply from his own peers. His dad was around, but never joking around. His father's idea of joking around was to hit Dave upside the back of his head if he did something, or as simple as repeating one of those designated bad words he heard his father use, or if he forgot to keep his elbows off the table, or, oh, none of that needed to matter or be in Dave's mind right now, even if just in the back of his mind. He glanced at Quasi, then exclaimed, "How about this one, dogs? How many hairs are in a dog's tail?" "None! They're all on the outside!" His friends groaned and chuckled. Just when they thought they had used up every joke they knew, John came in with, "One night, when I was asleep, I dreamed I was a muffler. I woke up exhausted." They all gave a sincerely hearty laugh out loud to that one. They were feeling exhausted right now, too. Jeremy said, "I think we exhausted all of our jokes." Ronnie rebelled. No, you did, but not me. I got one." He searched his mind, but wasn't really sure if he knew anymore. He was just saying that not to be undone by Jeremy. Jeremy challenged him. "Okay, let's hear it then, Ronnie." The short gap in time was just long enough for him to recall one. It didn't matter how good it was, just as long as he had one. As he began, he hoped the answer would follow quickly behind the riddle. What did the... Come on, Ronnie. I am. Shut up, Jeremy. Okay, so, what did the traffic light, the stoplight say to the car, or to the other traffic /stop, or a green light say? Yeah, you know that one. What did the traffic light say to the other traffic light? It could be red or green. It doesn't really matter. You know that one? Do you know it? John contemplated as he was trying to figure out what Ronnie even said. So he repeated the riddle back out loud. What did the traffic light say to the other traffic light? Ronnie confirmed. Yeah, that's what I said. John knew, but he didn't want to steal Ron's thunder. Ron proudly revealed the answer. It said, "Don't look now, I'm changing." Ronnie laughed at his own cleverness, and the others laughed at him. It didn't really matter, as long as they were amused or felt like they were playing some type of guessing game. Jeremy thought the answer was the traffic light saying stop or something like that. He was glad he didn't give the wrong answer. On to part B.